Canon PowerShot G5 X. The G5 X is good, but for the price it lags behind the best. With the same 1-inch 20-megapixel sensor and 24 to 100 mm f1.8 lens as the G7X, the Canon PowerShot G5 X targets basically the same enthusiast photographers, but with a photo-nerdier design that includes a very nice high-resolution built-in OLED electronic viewfinder, hot shoe and a more useful flip and twist articulated touchscreen rather than the selfie-oriented flip-up screen. It's a fine camera, but unless the more useful display and above-average viewfinder matter most to you, then it doesn't really stand out from the pack. The camera runs $750, 650 pounds, 990 Australian dollars, which puts it right in the middle of the crowd of cameras with similar specifications. As expected, given that it incorporates the same sensor, lens and image processing engine, the G5X's photos are very similar to those of the G7X. JPEGs look very good at low ISO sensitivities, with saturated colors, nice contrast and a tonal range that can handle moderately contrasty lighting well. At low ISO sensitivities, JPEGs look sharp, if a tad over-sharpened, which is typical for cameras in its sensor class. The lens delivers pretty good edge-to-edge sharpness, though if you are not completely parallel to the scene the edge distortions become unusually pronounced, even at about a 50 mm equivalent angle of view. Depending upon the light, JPEGs are usable through ISO 1600, beyond that the photos become visibly noisy and mushy from noise reduction, though they retain enough detail up through ISO 6400 that you might find them acceptable. You can regain some sharpness by processing the RAW, but not a lot of detail in highlights and shadows. As with the G7X, the video looks good, with few artifacts, but not terribly sharp compared to competitors with 4K support. The good news is that the G5X is faster than the G7X, and at 1.5 seconds, powers on and shoots faster than its competitors. While that's competitive, these cameras tend to be slow starters overall. Plus its autofocus performance, comparable to the others at 0.2 seconds in good light and 0.3 in dim, is better than the G7X's. However, its shot-to-shot time, a measure of how quickly the camera is ready to shoot again after taking a photo, is still pretty bad at 0.9 seconds for JPEG and 1.1 seconds for RAW. That's not just in lab tests. In practice, the camera feels frustratingly slow to respond. Continuous shooting performance matches that of the G7X at 4.6 frames per second, with autofocus, for at least 20 JPEGs. Single-area autofocus worked a lot more consistently in this camera compared to the G7X. As usual, the complete autofocus setting never selects the proper subject. It's really only useful when you want the entire scene in focus, as it selects as many AF areas as possible. Face IF works okay for stills, but it can be too easily distracted by faces or face-like objects moving through the frame. As with the G7X, though, the camera has a too short battery life, and the 3-bar battery level goes straight from 2 bars to blinking red with no stops in between.